Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Our marketing expert, Izzy House. 80 countries are currently reaching for the stars, and so that means the space companies are going to have to get up on marketing if they want to bid for customers and get bids for different type of contracts and gain investors. So we're going to be talking about all things space marketing today. Izzy, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Excited to be here.
Well, why don't you start off by giving a little bit of background about yourself?
Well, it all began when I was 13, and I went to go visit my grandparents for the summer down in Florida. They lived right next to Cape Canaveral in Melbourne, Florida, and they were space shuttle crazy. When you're 13 and you're going down to Florida, you expect to go to Disney World, right? Well, I got to go to Kennedy Space Center instead, which, I was a little bummed when they told me, but after I went there, I was inspired. That summer that I spent with them ignited my love for space. They introduced me to science fiction, which by the time the summer was over, I was ready to get back to school. I was going into 9th grade, and I had figured out what I needed to study in order to be selected to go to colonize a planet, which not many 9th graders are thinking that way. I was. Well, you can imagine the looks that I got from my peers and from everyone else when I would tell them what I wanted to do. I got a little grounded. Peer pressure kind of kicked in, and I went into marketing instead, which I absolutely loved. I got a degree from the Advertising Arts College in San Diego, and I began a business in San Diego where I was helping small businesses. I have helped over 600 different small businesses in my career. 9/11 happened, which, we are celebrating 9/11 today. We had just adopted our son that particular summer in July. My family lived in Virginia, his lived in Illinois, and we were in San Diego. When the towers went down, we just had gotten our son. He was 4 years old, that he hadn't met his grandparents yet. So we had a decision to make. I sold my business. We aimed our car and ended up in Kentucky. So that's how we got here. And I became a mom, and I had a business here with a business partner where I was doing marketing in Kentucky. My son ended up having a really rough high school, and we needed to spend a little bit more time with him. We ended up homeschooling. Well, one of the things that I did with him was Civil Air Patrol, which I don't know if you've ever heard of Civil Air Patrol, but that is a organization that has a component that teaches 12 to 18-year-olds all about aerospace, emergency services, character development, that kind of thing. I ended up as a cadet commander teaching aerospace, and it ignited my passion for aerospace all over again. My son graduated high school, and I thought, what does chapter 3 look like for me? Well, what would get me excited and juiced up every morning to wake up? And it was about 6 months I pondered this question. I love working with small businesses, but I need to focus it a little bit more. I went back to school. I got my bachelor's and my master's in digital marketing. And then one summer, a few years ago, my husband had a chance to go to Orlando for a conference, and I was, quote unquote, baggage. while he was at this conference, I went to Kennedy Space Center, and I was standing there in front of the Atlantis space shuttle because I love the space shuttle. And that's when it hit me that I could do both. I could do this, my passion marketing, but I could make it through the lens of space. And I went back to school, juiced. I graduated top in my class for both master's and bachelor's. Then I started looking at a PhD, and I wrote a proposal paper. And I looked at that proposal paper and I said, this could be a book. Boom, there you go. I started writing my book, and that was about a year ago.
So we need to start calling you Dr. House.
Not yet. PhD will happen one day, I'm sure.
Oh, most definitely. Well, tell us what space marketing is and why should we care about space?
Well, why we should care about the space. That's a very big subject with me. There's everything that we have in our lives is connected to space in some way, and we don't even realize it. For example, diabetics. If you prick your finger and check your sugar, that is from space. They created those strips in order to monitor the astronauts, because something happens to the astronauts when they're in space that affects their blood sugar. Well, we have that here. Our phones, the way we're talking right now is all satellite driven. How the cochlear implant for deaf people, that was from a NASA scientist. There are so many different things, from our working with remote to our mattresses that we sleep on. Those are all from reaching for the stars. It impacts every part of our day, and most people don't even know about it. And that's part of what prompts this writing of this book. There's two reasons that I wrote this book, is to promote space, first and foremost. When I was working with cadets, getting them excited about STEM is important. And in order to do that, you need to make space, our connection to space, everybody aware of our connection to space. Well, in order to do that, you need to have the businesses that are in space do a better job of marketing. NASA has done a phenomenal job of marketing throughout these last 50 years, but there are new rules in place for NASA. They are going to be more of a customer than the main entity for space. And then you have all these other countries that are involved now. NASA's impact on space will get smaller and smaller and smaller. So all of the businesses, they need to take up the slack, and marketing, or you could call it promotion, public relations, education. Those are all facets of marketing.
Well, what challenges do these companies face in regards to marketing?
Well, there's quite a lot of businesses have challenges in marketing just in general. For example, marketing has changed a lot since the cell phone came out. I mean, well, even go further back with the internet. Look at just in the last 30 years, how marketing has changed. It went from buying ads in the newspaper and time on television commercials to social media and Zoom. I mean, our whole world is different how we get our promotions and our advertising. And the companies, just your regular, soap and spaghetti sauce and sodas are struggling. Now, the space companies are unique in that they've only had to market to very few investors or NASA. That's the only customers in town. Well, that's not the case anymore. And they're going to have to learn how to market. This is not an industry that has had very strong marketing skills.
Can you give a
They're busy building rockets.
Can you give us some tips on some successful marketing strategies that you believe that will be successful for these companies?
I do. Well, first of all, they've got to make their websites and their content available to people. They have to know how to hire a team. In the book, I have basically 6 different areas that I focus on. One, the challenges within the space marketing industry specifically, and then some challenges within marketing in general. And then I go into the basics on how you build a brand, how you have conversation with your audience, how you build content that's attractive. It has to inspire, educate, and entertain. Then I touch on some marketing strategies and tactics. Throughout the book, I use a fictitious company called Rockets R Us to illustrate how to use a particular strategy so that it's not just, hey, this is a strategy, use it. This is how you use it. I also show different companies and the strategies that they've used that has worked well. And like, for example, Virgin Galactic is one of my favorite companies as far as marketing is concerned. They have done a great job of showing how to be profitable. For example, their tickets. They've been selling tickets for rides that don't exist. And yet the people that have bought these tickets are excited to have them because they looked at how to delight their audience, not just provide a ticket. They made over $80 million that was able to go back into their company and provide an audience that are waiting. I mean, they've waited, 15 years for these tickets? But they created a VIP program that every so often they get to have special events like go have lunch with Richard Branson or have the eclipse party. They had a huge eclipse party. So they're getting a lot of things for their ticket that are beyond just the ride. They were so clever in dealing with that. A lot of the marketing that you can do can earn income as well as market your company effectively. And I talk a lot about those. I really don't touch a lot on paid advertising as a rule because we're looking more at the basics on how to build content, how to have it on your website, how to send it out into the world, rather than, here's what you can just pay for and it'll magically be a silver bullet. Ads don't work that way anymore. Most people spend money trying to avoid ads. So we don't really want to go that route in some instances. Some instances, yes, you do. But a lot of them, it's stuff that you build on your platforms that you have already. And then I wrap the whole thing up with how to hire a team. Who do you look at? A lot of companies, when they start marketing, they give it to a sales guy or girl or woman, and then they expect them to go and do it. Well, this is a discipline just like in engineering. This is learning how people think and where people are. There's a lot that goes into it. You just don't put it off on somebody as a side job and expect it to work. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I break down the different positions and what are the skills that you look for in those people. So that's a little bit about that, how I structured that book. Even if you're not in the space, it's a very basic marketing book that any business, I think, could use and get a lot from.
Tell us the name of the book.
Space Marketing, Competing in the New Commercial Space Industry.
Available everywhere books are sold?
It is now available as an ebook starting yesterday for Amazon, and it will be on Amazon October 1st in paperback.
So tell us the new technologies that are out that will affect marketing.
Oh, that's the exciting part. Virtual reality and augmented reality are two of them. Augmented reality is exciting because it is used right now in space for manufacturing airplane engines and that sort of thing. It is going to be a powerful tool going forward. I mean, we already have augmented reality on our phone, like IKEA. If you want to see how a particular couch looks in your living room, you can use augmented reality to do that. You can measure a room on your phone. It's one of the basic services that you have on the iPhone is how to measure. All of that will be instrumental going forward in training. When they're training people to, like an oil rig has some very dangerous situations that happen that are very difficult to train people in if they're not happening often. Well, in virtual reality, you can stick that particular employee in the situation that's dangerous without putting them personally in danger and teach them how to respond. Education, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful marketing tools that we have out there. That's one of the ones that NASA has used throughout these last 50 years. Educating is a facet of marketing, and teaching people how to do what they need to do is, if you are the source of that information, you have marketed yourself, just as NASA did. And if you create training programs for STEM, or you create training programs for safety or buildings, then people will come to you for that training. It will make you the target company to work with. So that's what marketing is all about.
How has COVID-19 changed or impacted marketing?
Oh, very, very much so. Well, one, we're a lot more online than we used to be. For example, you and I are talking on Zoom right now. So that is huge. And how does that affect conferences and seminars and all the in-person things that we used to do? Those are all online now. And unfortunately, I don't think they're going anywhere. This new wave that we're experiencing is only going to force the online reality to be more permanent, I think. So we have to make sure that we adjust our marketing to how the world changes.
What would you recommend to businesses who don't understand marketing? What advice would you give them on how to proceed and get better into marketing or to better understand it?
Well, my biggest advice for businesses would be to love your audience. Know who they are, how they think, where they are, and what delights them. What can you do to make their lives better? Then it will come to you. They will listen to you, and they will focus on you if you do that. So that would be my biggest advice, is fall in love with your audience.
Are there any upcoming or current projects that you're working on that people need to know about besides your book?
I will be starting my next book, which is Our Connection to Space, on October 30th, which talks about all the different aspects of how space impacts our lives that we were talking about a little bit ago, from robotics to healthcare to, I digress a little bit, but they are learning how to 3D print a heart in space right now. And what that will do for us here on Earth is just amazing. So my next book is on our connection with space and how it affects us. So I'm really excited to start that, but that is going to be October 30th. I begin writing that. My website is izzy.house, and I have a book launch coming up on October 1st. I don't know if this is going to be out before then. And away we go.
I am definitely going to make sure it gets out before then, so that way people will know about it. So besides izzy.house, your website, how can we connect with you on social media?
My favorite particular social media is LinkedIn. And I am there's my real name is ILSE, but my nickname is Izzy, based off of a misspelling of my real name. So if you go to izzy.house, there's all my social media links there, and LinkedIn is one of them.
All right.
So I would go to izzy.house for that.
Perfect. You got any final thoughts before we close it out?
Well, it's important to love your audience. And we have a lot of changes going on in this world, which equals a lot of opportunities to do it a little different than we've done it in the past. So I encourage everyone to go forward and reach for the stars.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to izzy.house, check out her website, purchase them books. You never know, you might be the next big space marketer. Also, I'd like to remind listeners to follow, rate, review, and share after listening. And Android listeners, go to the Google Play Store and download the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast app. Izzy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Curtis. It's been a pleasure.
Rate, review, and share after listening. And Android listeners, go to the Google Play Store and download the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast app. Izzy, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Curtis. It's been a pleasure. For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.